Time we'll call to order the regular city council meeting for November 12th, 2018. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Lisa, got you on your toes over there. Councilmember Walton let me know that she was going to be a little bit late. Councilmember Parisian will not be here this evening, and Attorney Tim Wilhelm will also be a late add. Yeah.
I'd like to make the motion.
Councilmember Kennedy, go
I'd
ahead.
like to make a motion to excuse Councilmember Parisian's absence. She contacted me earlier this afternoon and said she would not be able to make the meeting tonight.
Oh, I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay. We move on to the approval of the minutes, October 22nd, 2018. Councilmember Parisian, or excuse me, Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I have one correction. It's on page 2, and it is regarding the 217-218 audit presentation, about a third of the way down. It says Councilmember Kurtzwell stated that that is an area she worked on extensively in 2006. It's 2016. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Kibble.
On page 9, the third line, the second to last word should be may instead of my. That's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Lisa, on page 11, third line up from the bottom of the second paragraph, we just need to insert the word I where it says and had around here. The word I should be in there. And that's all I had.
Move the minutes as amended.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. On to the approval of the bills this evening. Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My issue on the bills is that my husband is listed twice receiving a reimbursement, so I am going to decline voting on the minutes for conflict of interest purposes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else with anything for the bills this evening?
I'm going to rescind my voting because my Michigan Caterpillar did work on one of the trucks. My wife works there.
I'll move the bills.
Councilmember Richards.
I have no, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, we don't have a majority.
Yeah, so what do we do with that?
You have 3 people.
Right. Do we just make a record of it and move on? Do we
You could
move it
review
to the
them
bottom?
when Rose gets here.
Okay. Sounds good. So we're actually going to do that for both the bills, if someone wants to entertain the motion for that.
Yeah, I'll move that we move the bills to when Rose gets here.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Approval of this evening's agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. At this time, we will open the floor for public comment. Please state your name and address.
Larry Ledbetter, 11343 Clovis Point. I'm here representing the South Lyon Historical Commission. I'm the president. And before you, I've placed a memo regarding my request. But first, I'd like to thank the council and the mayor for supporting our jewel of South Lyon, the Historical Society, and the village. On the second page, the attachment shows the parking area, which is used for quite extensively with other activities such as the baseball league and people that are taking their kids to the park and the volleyball courts. So it's used quite a bit. We've got 3 significant problem areas where we have sinkholes that I've talked with Mr. Pat Mall about repairs, and he gave me a verbal estimate of about $2,000. But we were hoping that the whole parking lot could be considered as a possible renovation, which ultimately will have to be done. I believe the parking area, we couldn't put an exact date on it, but it's got to be somewhere about 1982, we think. So it is pretty rough shape in a lot of areas. And Dorothy Street has deteriorated significantly. And both the driveway areas are very badly broken up. So we were hoping that possibly we could allocate some monies in the future to do complete repairs. But bringing it to your attention, that was our objective. At our last meeting, the first Wednesday of November, we discussed it and they were suggested that I bring that to the council and make them aware of the situation. And the other thing is another attachment at the back. We wanted to bring attention to the Village Strings Dulcimer concert, which is a wonderful activity. But tickets will go fast because we have a very small venue in the church. But it's a really great program. It's a lot of fun, and we want to encourage people to come out for that. Our big event of Depot Day was a highly successful event this year. Dulcimer concert is really great, and of course Cool Yule is always a wonderful experience for the kids and a lot of fun. So our objective is to maintain the facility and make it available to the community, and our volunteer have done so much work. We've got commitments from the Catholic Church and from the Methodist Church. They've done painting and yard work and trimming bushes and trimming trees, and of course we have our regular village gardening crew, which is Bob Turnitere and Vicki and Linda, that do so much work there that keeps the place up really good. So.
All right, but thank you, Larry. That's our time limit for
Okay,
public comment, so thank you.
John Gallus, 134 North Warren. Just wanted to come say hi to everybody. Time to come and say hi. I've been pretty busy. Haven't had a chance to get in. I wanted to welcome our new city manager. I used to be the mayor at one time, and my plan was to come in and do it personally, but I've been so busy I haven't had an opportunity to come and say welcome. Hope things work out really well. In my mind, I think they will. So I have another reason, though, but I'm really glad to see the road cones that are downtown, about the people that are trying to cross the streets on the crosswalks. They worked great during the farmers market. Few times people drive through, but what I've noticed lately, it seems like, is that people are totally missing the one by the hotel. It's not the ones going southbound, it's the cars going northbound, and they seem to be just blowing it, one car after car after car. So I just happened to notice the people getting frustrated as I was walking and running, jogging, whatever it was, and I'd see people trying to cross, and I was just monitoring it the last week, and it seems like quite a few cars are not paying attention to the road cones that says you're supposed to stop. So I thought I'd come up and say something about it, because I thought that was a great addition, how much I wanted that to happen. So that was, I'd like to see them follow the rules, and but that's it. I'm glad to see you guys. Welcome, and want to shake your hand.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, John.
Thank you,
Thank
John.
you.
Hi, Jerry Stowe, 26701 Kentucky Court, Lyon Township. I've lived in South Lyon area for over 25 years, and I'm the husband of the owner of Grand Trunk Home 101 North Lafayette. My wife wishes I wasn't here tonight. I'm here tonight, though, to talk about the treatment she and other businesses have suffered at the hands of this city. Grand Trunk Home just celebrated its 10th year in the downtown area at 2 different locations. As this business grew, it ended up moving to the northwest corner of Lafayette and Lake. That corner location was renovated and returned to an earlier authentic look. People were lined up down the street for the grand opening at the new location. The 2 previous mayors came in. John was there. And you, Mr. Kivel, you came in. I spoke with you proudly of the renovations. You took it all in, and then you left. And I suspect on Monday you went to the city offices to see if the necessary code enforcements were in place. I'm not going to defend the actions or the inactions as they happened. Ultimately, that responsibility does fall on the business owner. At any rate, it didn't take long before Grand Trunk Home received in the mail court documents drawn up and signed by the city attorney and your often absent previous city manager, taking one of the few thriving downtown businesses to court, huh? One of the court compliance items was ADA access. When the building went from business use to retail use, ADA rules now applied. Okay, but what's not okay is the confusion created as to who holds authority over ADA compliance, the city or the state. My wife traveled to Lansing multiple times. On one occasion, the committee became more interested in the entire city and questioned why the city was after this particular business when it appeared as though the city itself may not be wholly compliant. The committee requested of Dennis Smith at that time that the city manager come and answer to some of their questions. One thing to note on this, my wife's dad has MS and has been in a wheelchair for the last 15 years. The idea that this city suggested my wife was trying to avoid getting ADA compliant for any reason is ridiculous. Her dad was never able to see firsthand what his only daughter had created. So the court case was finally dismissed after getting fully compliant, but not before one last game played by the city to move the last court date up to an earlier date. We asked the acting city manager why this change was requested by the city, and he didn't have an answer. All of this and more has solidified for us that there is a real lack of business-friendly government to work with here. With the exception of terror from the city offices, the male staff, including Dennis Smith and Ken Pike, have been condescending and treated my wife with little to no respect. You as well, Mr. Kivel, but you don't limit yourself to the female business owners. You transcend that. You meddle into everything like Pumpkin Fest, almost leading to losing it for a downtown a few years back.
Sir, just please wrap up your statement here.
Sure.
We're above time limit.
The businesses in this community all strongly support the community's teams and groups. These folks need the business support that you don't seem to understand. It would be a shame if businesses leave or don't come at all because of the onerous city stances and your ongoing desire to introduce additional regulation. One last thing, when the new city manager's interviews were being done, one council member, contacted my wife to get her feedback on the candidate interviews. What a concept, reaching out to find out what our business owners in the city think of the new leadership candidates. That's business friendly. That's working together for a common goal of a successful downtown. Thank you.
At this point, we will close our first public comment of the evening and move on to the presentation of net asset checks by MMRMA.
Good evening. My name is Tim McClory. Some of you recognize me. You're usually happy to see me, and tonight's no different, I hope. I come with good news. As you know, you guys are members of the Municipal Risk Management Authority. We are not an insurance company. We're a group of governmental entities that pool together for insurance purposes. So as such, you guys are basically quasi-owners of the program. And when there's money to be had, MMRMA gives money back to our members. We do that in many forms. We pay your MCCA charges on all your vehicles. We give back $1.75 million in risk avoidance program and CAP grants, which is certification and accreditation grant monies. And we also have a net asset distribution program, which brings me here today. In fact, you guys have participated. You guys got a couple of nice awards today. This is not your largest, but it's almost your largest net asset distribution. the way these things happen is MMRMA, we collect what we call a fair contribution due to less than expected loss trends and risk management practices, and especially like the city has done historically, taking advantage of risk avoidance programs to help control the risk so you don't have the losses to begin with. And then, of course, investment income, all that leads to a good thing. MMRMA distributed $29 million back to its members this year, bringing the total to $279 million distributed back to our membership since 2006. So I'm looking forward to next year when we can say we beat the $300 million mark. I'm excited about that. But I have here a check for $51,661 and another one here for $14,531. So that gives you guys a total this year of about $66,192. So I congratulate you, and we thank you for your membership and your business. And I'm going to give these to Paul. One other note: you guys did take advantage of one of our grants earlier this year. Our SCADA for the DPW, the SCADA system. We helped you fund that, and that came to the tune of $14,000. So since you've joined MMRMA, your net asset distribution history, you guys have received back from MMRMA $13,337 on that, and then the state pool, which is your second check, an additional $58,598, and your grant history. And I encourage all department heads to go onto our website, www.mmrma.org. Look at the resource section. If you don't have a login in your department head, you can get the login. There's plenty of grant opportunities. Like I said, we give back $1.75 million a year in grant funding, matching grant funding. So that's all I have. You guys have done very well. I wish you continued success, and I will give these to Paul. And I will open up to any questions if you have any.
No, but thank you very much. We're delighted this, we used to have MML care coverage, and the difference has been night and day with you guys. The RAP grants alone, the idea that, we do things that are in our best interest and we get rewarded by you guys for doing that. That's really
well. And when we first joined back in 2000, I think it was 2008, one of the goals was we wanted to be your risk management partner first and your insurance company second. And you guys have embraced that, and we thank you for that. And I'll give the money to Paul. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
Move on to the discussion of the downtown.
Yes, hello everybody.
Evening, Bob.
I'll move through quick. I did want to make one note regarding Grand Trunk. I think the Downtown Development Authority has changed its culture. I won't speak for anyone else, but I think the DDA, myself, I accompanied Sue to Lansing, spoke on her behalf. So I think the Downtown Development Authority is establishing a business-friendly culture. But I'm just speaking for the DDA. I'll leave it at that. And I think that we've established a very good, we being the DDA, and with not only Grand Trunk, but the rest of the DDA businesses since the last 2 years. So, moving forward, I think everybody has a copy, was given a copy of the annual report, which actually we extended up through to November. If there are any questions on that, we're excited to see that. I think a couple items, just real brief. I think just some really good sound bites here. The fact that it was just 1 year ago, not quite 1 year ago, that the South Lyon Hotel was completed. So that was an additional $1,400,000, which brought the total investment for the South Lyon Hotel to $2,400,000. Incredible. The totals there for all of the new construction and building rehabs and building sales was $5,492,000. Not bad for a small, one of Oakland County's smallest downtown development authorities. We also created 67 jobs over the last year. So I think those are good numbers. And again, the whole purpose is to benchmark and look back and then look forward in our progress. The building rehabs, we're going to be celebrating 2 of our building rehabs this Thursday, November 15th at 9 o'clock, 115, 117 North Lafayette. Media has been notified. The South Lyon High School Marching Band members, some of them, not all of them, will be there. So I'd urge you to come out and help celebrate at the ribbon cutting this Thursday, 9 a.m. Ladies' Night Out is this week. We're excited to have an avalanche of fine folks throughout downtown. I know we're excited, and there's an item later on your agenda. We'll be celebrating National Small Business Saturday. We're partnering with the Chamber of Commerce. Looking forward to that, November 24th. Cool Yule, still details are rolling in. We're almost firm with all the details. We started today, the volunteers, on putting up the red lights on all the trees downtown. We hope to have the trees all lighted in the next week or so, and those won't be turned on until Cool Yule or the day before. The holiday gift guide was also included in your packet. It's a start. It's small, but it's at the quality I think we've been looking for, and we're excited to see it get started. That's all I have.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
Bob.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Yes, sir.
Bob,
Oh, go ahead, Councilmember
just
Richards.
mention this, I hope you can stay till the end of the meeting.
I will be here through my item on the agenda. Yeah.
Okay, council comments is what I was hoping you could stay for, if it don't take too long. Okay, anyway,
If that's fine.
okay.
If that's your request, I have no problem.
Yeah, it's my request.
Does anyone else have anything for Bob? Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Before moving on to old business, we'll bounce back to the approval of the bills now that Councilmember Walton is here. We did not have enough votes to,
Oh, okay.
so did you have anything on the approval of the bills?
I have nothing on the bill, so would you like me to make a motion?
I would certainly entertain it.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Move on to the approval of the attorney bills this evening.
Same thing. Sorry. I have no comments on those as well, so I will go ahead and make the motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Councilmember Walton.
Thank you.
Moving on to old business this evening. The second reading of ordinance to prohibit marijuana establishments in the city of South Lyon. This is the second reading. The recommendation is to approve this.
Mr. Mayor and Council. So this is the second reading of the ordinance. So as everybody is probably aware, the voters approved the legalized marijuana ballot proposal. And this is an ordinance that would prohibit marijuana establishments, and that term is defined in the act that was created by that ballot proposal. And it basically hits all the retail, manufacturing, and so forth. And this is largely a placeholder because we have not evaluated whether that is a type of activity that the city of South Lyon wants. But there's no change since the last reading. If there's any questions, I can answer them.
Councilmember Kivel?
Oh, no questions, but my comments of the last meeting remain the same. I don't think that this has been fleshed out to anywhere near the degree that it needs to be able to be implemented without a whole lot of hitches taking place, and the idea of PD being able to do an assessment of people's impairment as they're driving and things, until that is we've got some assistance in trying to come to a conclusion for public safety. I think that that can sit on the shelf for as long as it takes to get there, I guess, in my view.
Councilmember Kennedy?
I'd like to make the motion to approve the second reading of the ordinance to prohibit marijuana establishments in the city of South Lyon.
That's support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Old business 2A this evening. The second reading of ordinance rezoning parcel 21-19-126-002, Thomasville from RM1, multiple family residential, to PD, planned development.
Mr. Mayor and Council. So this is the second reading. There are two parts to this, essentially. We're going to deal with the first one, which is rezoning this parcel from RM1 to PD. There are no changes since the last time the council addressed this. And this is step 2 of the 4-step PD process, or plan development process. The next part of this would be to approve the stage 1 preliminary site plan that accompanies this and would lock them into that site plan and send it back to the Planning Commission for step 3, where they would make a recommendation on the final site plan, which would have more detail. So if there are any questions, I can certainly try and answer those, or if there are concerns. Nothing else has changed.
I'll say something anyway.
Councilmember Richards, go ahead.
Tim, it was my understanding that it had to go back before Planning Commission for final site plan after the action of the previous meeting, okay, on the 18th of September, I believe. It was my understanding it had to go back to Planning Commission at that time. Am I incorrect in that? Or what?
So this is step 2. So there's a 4-step process. The first is Planning Commission recommends rezoning, makes a recommendation on rezoning and preliminary site plan. That's a recommendation to the council. We are at that stage. Because the rezoning takes 2 readings, the site plan is not presented until you're at the second reading, which is tonight. So you're getting the 2 parts of step 2. If approved, it would go back to the Planning Commission with a recommendation that comes back to council for step 4. Does that make sense?
This is all because it's PD, right?
Correct.
This doesn't work the same with.
You are absolutely correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Councilmember Kennedy.
I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to approve the second reading of an ordinance to amend the official zoning map
Roll call vote.
of the city of South Lyon incorporated into the South Lyon zoning ordinances by section 102 to 182 by rezoning the property, parcel number 21-19-126-002, more fully described in the attached Exhibit A, parentheses, the property, from the RM1 district multiple family residential to the PD district planned development, subject to the following conditions that are contained in the document dated November 12th, 2018, presented here in front of us.
Oh, sorry,
That's
Glenn.
okay.
Councilmember Kivel, go ahead.
Well, first up, I have a comment before I end up making the second this, in that I have no objections to the idea of this being rezoned into a PD. My objections lie in what the contents of that PD would be. So I will support the motion to move forward.
So we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Richards has asked for a roll call vote. Lisa?
Kibble?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Richards?
No.
Walton? Yes. Kurzweil?
Abstain for conflict of interest.
Elchat?
Yes. Thank you, Lisa. We'll move on to old business 2B, consider approval of Thomasville preliminary stage 1 plan development site. Councilmember Kivel.
Well, we'll go back into that whole argument. We've given an awful lot of concessions. The developer has suggested that the planned development is this trade-off between the community and the developer's interests in trying to maximize both that we get a nice development and that he's rewarded as a product of making his commitment to the community. We've bent over, I think, substantially in giving relief from a whole host of things. These 6 items that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 items that were giving relief from lot area to setbacks and things of that nature, densities and all that. We've got 50 homes that are proposed to be put in here, 27 of which do not comply with lot coverage. I can't support this development moving forward until we have some kind of a write-off, sign-off by the developer that every lot will end up being compliant with building coverage as well as the impervious surfaces coverage. So he's got eight homes or 8 lots that he doesn't have a home to be able to pull that off. And I don't have a problem with him having another developer provide or another builder provide a home that can be compliant, but I can't approve this with all that. I think we've bent over backwards trying to find a happy medium here. So
I got plenty to say, but I'll just, whatever.
Councilmember Richards, go ahead.
I've read every bit of this. It says in there, it reverts to the previous zoning if he hasn't completed the project in 3 years. Well, I can't honestly say I can see with completing that project in 6 years. Okay, if you read that fine print in there, it has to go, there's flaws in this whole thing, okay? He already stated, I'm going to sell out and let Paldy build the rest of it. Fine, that's not uncommon, that goes on, sure. But it speaks to sincerity. Not one time has this gentleman come before this council and said, okay, I see there's resistance to my plans. Why don't you all collectively give me a suggestion of what I can build on this property that will make everyone happy, that I can make a reasonable profit on for my investment? He has never done that. And if I was in the building industry business, I would have certainly looked at that. Okay? To let this thing go through would be a colossal mistake, in my opinion, and a more of a cost factor to the city of South Lyon and services down the road. And the people across the street, have they ever been sent notices from us? They're in the township. I don't know. I haven't heard any of them show up at council meetings here. They will be seriously impacted with their property values and quality of life. The people at Colonial Acres, some of them are in favor of it. The ones I ride in the bus with to Walmart's, they're not in favor of it. I told them, how are you guys going to feel when there's no regulation in this development? If that goes in and 5 times a year, there's 500 to 1,000 fireworks going off in there. Okay, and people are hanging deer carcasses because there's hunters and fishers on the railroad track easement. The city can't control that, let alone what I've talked about the underground vibration factor. These are things that are serious for quality. We're talking about a quality of life issue here, all the way through with this thing. Okay, that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Councilmember Richards. Does anyone else have anything?
Mr. Mayor,
Tim?
if I may, so this is in combination, this is the preliminary stage 1 plan development site plan for Thomasville. It is closely tied to the rezoning of this property and the request that it be rezoned to plan development from RM1. You've been provided with a history of the development proposals by this owner and the previous owner. In 2015, it was a more dense development. They have since come back, reduced the number of units. Since council has addressed this since July of 2018, there have been further revisions to the plan to address various lot coverage and other issues relating to the details of the plan. If this were to be approved and move forward, step 3 would be final site plan and a recommendation and review by the Planning Commission. We also would be looking at a plan development agreement and a review of the condominium documents related, this would be a site condominium. So that would be reviewed through the Planning Commission, my office, for plan development agreement and condominium documents, as well as final site plan, which would ultimately come back to the council as step 4 of the process.
Looks like we're willing to let this die on the floor here tonight, if no one has anything else.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Kennedy?
I'd like to make the motion we postpone this to the next council meeting when we have hopefully have a full board here to discuss it, which would be the meeting on November 26th.
I'll support.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to postpone this to the second meeting of November, which is the 26th. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
That motion passes.
Is that 3-1? We got 3 people here, or 2? 1, 2,
6.
6.
Okay, moving on to new business this evening. Resignation of Police Chief Lloyd Collins.
I had asked them if we don't approve it, because you have to stay here.
No, I mean, does anyone have anything for Chief?
Well, I mean, clearly 21 years worth of solid performance. We've been very, very fortunate to have had you serve this community as you have. Yeah, there's really not an awful lot more to say. You've been top drawer. You saved us when we needed help in that corner office as well. Yeah, you'll truly be missed as far as being a working partner here. Obviously, we hope to see you through the community in the coming years, but I'm really grateful that you helped us out as long as you have.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
I'd like to echo Councilmember Kivel's comments. I mean, we've been more than fortunate in having you be there, Lloyd, and to support us, but we certainly understand the desire to enjoy the second act, if you will, and you're still going to be in the neighborhood, so we'll probably still take advantage of that. So certainly wish you the best and want to thank you for everything you've done.
Councilmember Richards, go ahead.
I want to ditto Councilman Kennedy and Councilman Kibble exactly, and I am very glad to see you stay in the community, which we all come to trust you greatly. And I think in terms of you being the grill master, when we have our celebration there, cleanup day, I believe it is, yes, in McCaddy Park. And the few times I've been there, I never make it every time, but I've really enjoyed that, okay? And look forward to you being here around us and amongst us. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Walton, go ahead.
I really can't say anything more than that, what they've already said, so I'm just going to say thank you for all your time and happy retirement.
Councilmember Kurtzwell?
Same thing, there's nothing left to say, so good luck to you and good wishes. Enjoy your retirement, that's what it's there for.
Thank you. I appreciate council's kind words and comments, and I will be remaining in the community.
Great, great. Does anyone on council have an objection if former Mayor Galius says something really quick?
No, not at all.
Come on up, John.
I didn't know this was actually on the agenda until I read it. And I'm sad, but I'm happy for you. And I think you know how much I really care for you and how much I like you. We've known each other a long time. We've been neighbors. And I put you in a tough spot by bringing you into the mix by wanting to appoint you to the city manager when we needed you best, and I knew you were going to be the best guy for the job, best person for that, just because of your integrity and your personality and how you do things. You're truly going to be missed. It's going to be tough shoes to fill, and but I think you've deserved your time. And I want to personally say, man, I'm going to miss you being the guy, you know, and your wisdom and our talks. and helped me through a lot of things, and you were very, very, very integral in helping this city get through a tough time, through many, many times when there was things going on that shouldn't have been, and you stayed to the course and kept things the way they should have been. And I really appreciate that. I hope the city understands how much this guy devoted his life and time to this city and how much he meant to the people in this city that really care. So with that, I want to say thank you. Good luck. I'm sure I'm going to see you around town.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember Kibble.
Just as a historic perspective, I think it's really important that it be recognized that Lloyd really made this a professional PD. We had a lot of nice officers before you got here, but we were a training ground for everybody. We didn't pay enough to actually have people stay here. They would they'd get their hours in, they'd get groomed, and they'd understand what a cop had to do, and then they'd move on to somebody that would actually pull their wallet out. And when Lloyd came in, he made it clear that we need to transition to become a professional force, and we clearly have seen the evidence of that. What wonderful officers that we have here. It is a very, very professional outfit now. So in spite of your leaving, the good part is you'll be gone, but the good part will be that we'll have these trained, very proficient officers remain here and take care of this community. I think that you take all the credit, or you deserve all the credit for getting us to this point. So,
Mr. Mayor, I also want to identify to council that there is a letter within everybody's packet, which was stated by the chief as the official letter for his retirement. And I'll just have you know, this letter was dated before this individual is sitting in this chair right now, just so that make that perfectly clear.
Quickly, I just want to echo John's statements too. In the exact year to the date since I've taken over this seat, you've been incredibly helpful for me and a very steady hand. So thank you, Chief. So
My pleasure, Mr. Mayor.
I think that about wraps it up on that. Councilmember Kennedy.
I'd like to make the motion to accept the resignation of Chief Collins from the South Lyon Police Department with regret, but with understanding.
I'll support. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Can I leave now?
New business number 2, the resignation of Abe Ayub from the DDA Board effective December 31st, 2018. Councilmember Kurtzwell.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the resignation of Abraham Ayub from the DDA Board, and I would like to make a comment. But I'll wait for a second, make sure it's before the assembly.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead with your comment.
I would like to thank Abe Ayub for his incredible service to the city of South Lyon. Abe Ayub has done incredible things behind the scenes, and he's just one of those very, very quiet volunteers that doesn't ask for any acclamation. He doesn't ask for any thank yous. He just does it because he has a strong belief in service to the communities that serve him well. And I just wanted to say, Abe, you're a good human being. I think you served on the DDA. You did well. And I want to thank you for giving the DDA time. You made your resignation effective on December 31st, 2018. You're not, for an individual to do that, to date the resignation several months ahead of time, just shows the character and the responsible nature of Abe Ayub. Most individuals who are leaving their employer or in the corporate setting or on organizations do this when they're leaving on good terms, and they do it so that they can give the organization an opportunity to look for a replacement and to transition without upsetting everything. So I think the fact that Abe is giving the DDA an opportunity to move forward with new candidates for the DDA just continues to show how responsible he is as a human being and how he cares about the further moving forward of the DDA. So those are my comments regarding Abe.
Thank you, Councilmember Kurtzwell. We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
With thanks, too.
Yes, and a thank you to Abe. I've spoken to him as well, so.
Yeah.
New business number 4 this evening, the resignation of, backpedaling. New business number 3, the resignation of Marcia Callis from the DDA Board effective December 31st, 2018. Councilmember Walton.
I'd like to make the motion to accept the resignation of Marcia Callis, effective December 31st, 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
With thanks.
All opposed? Motion passes, and thank you to Marcia as well.
Mayor,
Yes.
may I make a
Bob, come on up.
Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to thank both Abe and Marcia for the wonderful job they did in changing the culture of the DDA. And I know people before them did a wonderful job as well. But I think they really understand where we need to go, and they've been essential. They both chaired wonderful events. Abe has chaired not only the Kids Trick or Treat, he's done a wonderful job and expanded that event with Cheryl Wickham. And then Marcia has done the wonderful job in taking Ladies' Night Out to a new level. So great people, did a great job.
Yeah, those are some big-time events, so thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
All right, now new business number 4, the resignation of Samantha White from the Housing Commission. Councilmember Kurtzwell.
I move to accept the resignation of Samantha White from the Housing Commission.
My second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you to Samantha as well. New business number 5, Ladies' Night Out event, request for street closure of East Lake Street from Lafayette to Wells Street. Bob?
Hello again. This is an adjustment to a previous approval. The Ladies' Night Out schedule, the event itself is from 5 to 9 p.m., but we thought it would be better. They have an event which happens at the end of the night. It's where they're having gift giveaways, and it's at its peak, and with the growth of the event. So we've asked to extend the hours to actually 10 p.m. But with the rush hour, and speaking with Chief Collins and our new city manager, Paul, we decided that the closure itself would now be 6 to 10 p.m. And that would accommodate for closing just East Lake Street between Lafayette and Wells for what we think will be a very significant, the largest crowd ever for Ladies' Night Out. And I think for everyone's safety, it's a good thing.
Councilmember Walton.
I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to approve the closure of East Lake Street from Lafayette to Wells Street from 6 to 10 p.m. on Friday, November 16th, to accommodate the activities related to the Ladies' Night Out DDA event.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
There's a lot of talk about this in town.
It's going to be fun.
It is.
I think everyone's looking forward to it. New business number 6, street administrator. The explanation of this topic, the City Council approved a resolution in 2014 naming the previous city manager as the street administrator for the city of South Lyon. City Council needs to update the street administrator resolution naming the current city manager as the street administrator. Councilmember Kennedy?
I'll make the motion to approve the appointing Paul Zelnick as the street administrator for the city of South Lyon.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. New business number 7, South Lyon United Women's Lacrosse Boosters Charitable Gaming License. Councilmember Kurtzwell?
I move to approve the resolution to recognize the South Lyon United Women's Lacrosse Boosters as a nonprofit organization operating in the community for the purpose of obtaining a charitable gaming license.
All in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
can we have her speak?
Yeah, we always welcome that, yes.
She came in.
Sorry, so we have a motion and a second, but
No worries. I'm glad glad you're willing to do this. The Boosters Program is trying to raise money, as with all the programs in the community. And obviously, this is one step in the process. And I think I keep coming here on different organizations. Hopefully, this is the last one.
Thank you for taking your time.
Thank you
to
for
come
being
in.
here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. New business number 8, consider approval by Kiwanis Club for the use of the Historic Village and Depot grounds for their annual Christmas tree sale event. Mr. Weipert, how are
Good
you?
evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. We're here to ask, I'm Phil Weipert, 135 North Warren, South Lyon, Michigan. I'm here on behalf of the Kiwanis Club, and we are asking that we be allowed to use the depot grounds that we've used every year ever since Farmer Jack sold the bushes and they gave up their property or built a bigger store. So the city was gracious enough to allow us to use the park. So we're asking, but there's a twist. As you know, I sometimes wander in here on Monday nights. It's the same night as our Kiwanis meeting. Our group just voted or just agreed that if we could do Saturday is the day we'd like to set up. I asked for Monday. As you know, with most volunteer groups, everybody is available this Saturday to help set up. So I can get the insurance updated in one-day turnaround without a problem. So if you could, we'd ask if we could use it from November 17th through the end of the year, contingent upon the insurance, of course. And as you know, just it supports the senior dinner. It's December 10th this year. And just so you know, the different projects the Christmas tree sales help support, we sponsor Cub Scout Pack 336. We do Kids Against Hunger. We help on the Easter egg stuffing. We're using the hall to do all the eggs. We do the Cub Scout Pinewood Derby. We do the Memorial Day Parade, where we are sometimes in it, but we also always open the hall so that there's restrooms available for the town at the beginning of the parade. The town doesn't have to get porta potties. We do 4 scholarships, 2 scholarships at East, 2 scholarships at regular South Lyon, 1,000 each. We just did those. Then we have the parents come for a scholarship dinner. We always treat the parents of those scholarship recipients to a dinner. And we call it CPA, Parental Appreciation Award. And we do beer and brats festival, and we do a key club. The Kiwanis Club sponsors 2 key clubs. That's the Kiwanis Club at the high school, at East and South Lyon regular. We try to help those kids do leadership, teach them some skills. So those kids, we work with them. They just did the rail tree. They adopt the rail, so they clean up the rail trail from 11 Mile all the way to the volunteer park. We just did that about a month and a half ago. And both schools have spaghetti dinners, and we let the kids take ownership of the project, sell tickets, and we host it and let them make some profit. In fact, South Lyon just made $12.50 for their key club. And then of course we do dictionaries to every 3rd grader in South Lyon School District. We just passed those out. And since 2006, we've probably passed out 10,000 dictionaries to 3rd graders. And then we do the senior dinner, which is December 10th this year. So we really appreciate the city allowing us to use the park. The Christmas tree sales is the biggest fundraiser, and there's not many other fundraisers. We don't do golf outings, and so if you could allow us to use it from this Saturday, the 17th, I'll get the insurance up to City Hall this week. The national organization of Kiwanis is really good on insurance. They've seen our policy, but it's a pretty good policy. And they turn around one day.
I don't think it's going to be a problem, Phil. Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
I move to approve the request by the Kiwanis to hold their annual Christmas tree sales in McCanty Park, commencing Saturday, November 17th, 2018, to the end of the year, contingent upon an update of the attached insurance certificate.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
And you're welcome. As part of that, we also ordered the tree for Cool Yule and for the lighting. So we've ordered that. As part of our supplier, we get the tree for the city. that'll be, the Christmas tree lighting will be, I think December 1st, if I'm right. I think so.
Congratulations on winning your election.
Thank you.
All right, new business number 9 this evening. Consider CDBG application projects for the Senior Center and Haven. The 2019 CDBG application deadline is Friday, December 14th, 2018. On October 22nd, 2018, at the regularly scheduled City Council meeting, the city held a public hearing relating to the application and the projects that we would like to support regarding the CDBG funds allocated to South Lyon. The city's funding allocation for 2019 is $37,836. The city will continue to use the allocation for the 2019 to support the projects that we have funded in recent years, the Senior Center and Haven. Both incredibly great things in our community.
Do it every year.
Councilmember Kibble.
I'd make the motion that we support the approved and selected projects as identified.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. New business number 10, purchase of a 2020 DPW salt/plow dump truck. Mr. Brock, how are you?
Not bad, thanks, Dan. My name's Ron Brock, South Lyon DPW, and tonight I'm asking for permission to move forward and purchase a 2020 salt truck for the DPW, it's one that has a broken frame. Any questions?
Councilmember Kennedy?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of the cab and chassis from Wolverine Freight Line and equip it with the attachments from Napahide Truck Equipment for a total cost of $167,582.
I'll support.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Richards has a comment. Go ahead.
I'm in favor of you getting a dump truck, Ron, and I seriously like and approve of Napahide equipment, okay, and the structural integrity of it. But I've got a problem with one item in the whole sheet, and that's the Allison transmission. My friend, I don't believe that an Allison transmission for that particular type of usage, because in plowing snow, especially with those size of vehicles, transmissions take the roughest beating. You got to change the transmission oil periodically through the winter in a heavy snow year. And I've had experience with other truckers, and I think the city would be better served for the long-term durability with a different brand of transmission if it could be done for the same amount of money. Other than that, I'm in favor of everything.
Currently, that transmission is in every one of our heavy-duty trucks, and we've not experienced any major difficulties out of it.
Okay, well then you're changing the oil regularly.
Yes, we're doing the maintenance on it.
Okay, that's it.
Yes, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thanks for being here, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
New business number 11, UV system refurbishment. Mr. Beeson.
Good evening. Ron Beeson, South Lyon Water Wastewater Department. Asking approval to actually purchase 2 complete UV modules. That'll include 6 ballasts and a UV or a AC unit for the UV cabinet. I'm asking this for our UV system that basically is a system that disinfects the treated wastewater to meet our parameters and permits. We had a kind of a surprise inspection by the DEQ. It was a pretty intense walkthrough of the whole facility, and they did notice the wear and corrosion of the unit. Although we are still in compliance with our permit, I was aware of this before we made the budget. It is a budgeted item, so I have 3 options. One is to complete UV system, which is the most expensive. Obviously, that's replacing the whole unit, including the ballast, the cabinet, and the modules. That does not include installation, which would have to be done by a certified electrician. The second one, which is the one I would like to prove, is the complete module replacement. So our UV system, you have pictures in front of you. There are two banks. They're A and B banks. Each bank contains two modules. Two modules, or each module contains 6 UV bulbs. There's quartz liners, sleeves that these UV bulbs go into to keep it protected from the wastewater. There's a wiper system that wipes these quartz sleeves. Those parts right now on our present and current unit, they are in need of repair. We try to maintain this, but we have increased maintenance and we're seeing decreased efficiency on these, and they noticed that when they did the inspection. The final one is a refurbish of one bank and add the AC unit and 6 ballast. That entails somebody from Wedeco to come out and spend a day or two and actually rebuilding it at the plant. It doesn't include, if you look at some of those pictures, it doesn't include any of the stainless steel shroud or housing that encases the UV bulbs. It doesn't include the brackets that hold the UV bulbs. So it's a refurbishment of what we have. The second 1.2, which is the one that I would recommend, is a complete unit. It's a plug and play. You just simply plug it in, and that's for two banks. So as you can see, it is a budgeted item. We do have and project that in the next budget also. I would like to get as much done under this budget and see where we're at that point. There may be some other issues I don't see here. Programming, we'd like to update the program. This was installed in 2005 or prior to that when we redid our plant. So it's in need of a little care. So at this time, I would like the council approval to option 1.2, and that is to complete module replacement with an AC unit for the cabinet and 6 ballasts.
Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
I had a question. I'm looking at here and I'm seeing that the UV system was installed in 2005. What sort of maintenance replacement program are you on? I mean, 10 years seems to be an awfully long time to not be addressing some of these issues. That's
there
over
has
a
been
decade.
Maintenance done. The wiper system, we've changed the wiper system prior to this, obviously. The UV bulbs, they don't last 10 years. So they have been replaced. It's every 20,000 hours you replace the UV bulbs. It's the quartz liners. It's the things that keep that water tight that we're seeing that corrosion. The wiring, it's submerged in wastewater. So we're seeing that corrosion. That's something we can't help over time. It's in a building that has a lot of moisture year-round. The cabinets are designed with an AC unit to keep that cabinet dry and cool. We don't have that on our present one. It's simply open to that corrosion. The new unit, we would install it ourselves. We'd put an AC unit to keep all the controls dry and cool.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to approve the purchase 1.2, complete module replacement, adding that one AC unit and 6 ballasts for a total cost of $27,268.
Councilmember Kimball, go ahead.
I will support this, but I was curious. I just want to make sure. Now, these modules, they're interchangeable. I mean, as a unit, you drop it in, and
as a unit, if you look at some of the pictures, it is the complete unit with the plug, the stainless steel plugs. It will plug and play. We'll simply drop it in there. It's complete with UV bulbs and the quartz liners and the wiper system. The only thing you don't see is on this page, if these are the ballasts. So there's 6 ballasts for each of these modules. And so we'll replace those also.
Okay, all this stuff, had made a suggestion for next year that you'd like to look at controls and things.
Exactly.
Now, is this all compatible with the new controls that you're
Right,
I'm
everything
assuming
will be
so?
compatible, so this is just the first stage of 2. We
Yeah.
hope to do the next stage next year, but I'm hoping with the money that we put in the budget, we can accomplish more this year and possibly look into that budget next year and maybe lower the cost in that line item. So that's the plan. We're at the beginning stages. I've tried to look at everything that could go wrong. I hope, I counted for everything. I think I have, so.
I assumed that it was all
Yeah.
compatible, so, but I just
It
wanted
is
to
all
make sure.
compatible. They make this exact unit still, so we can just put it right in, which is a.
Thank you. I'll let you second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
being
Ron.
here, Ron.
Stay up here.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Stay right. Let's slip
Don't
over
go
the
too
next.
far.
All right.
New business number 12, replacement of existing vent piping for boilers.
This is a vent system for our boiler heat system at our wastewater plant. So this is not our primary heat source. It's a secondary heat source, but it does heat certain areas of the building that are kind of critical, the pipe gallery, some of the outbuildings that you cannot put a regular forced air type heat in. We have Croft Services come out 4 times a year. They do an inspection and maintenance. They change filters. They check belts. They were going to certify the boiler at that time when they noticed that the vent stack, was corroded and rusted. This appears to be the original from the building when it was built in the 80s. It has never been updated, and it's obviously out of code. It's now a B vent that is required, and that's a double-walled vent. This is single vent. I have the 3 quotes. I would, at this time, like the council to approve the lowest quote for that B vent for the 2 boilers is $5,685. And if you look at the recommendation at the same time, I would recommend doing the vent for the hot water tank, which is in the same area of the hot water tank vent. So what they'll do is expose this chase. It's a blocked chase. You can get in it from up top on the roof. It's a tight spot, and if they're going to be doing that vent for the boiler, I would recommend while they're in there, bring that other one up to code. So Russ has been out, he looked at it, gave me some suggestions. He's the mechanical contractor for the city. So I would like to go forward and get that done so we can get the boiler certified and up and running for the winter.
Councilmember Walton? No, come here.
At this time, I'd like to approve Croft Mechanical quote for, or make the motion to approve Croft Mechanical quote for $5,685 and approve the replacement of the heater vent quoted at $2,531.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Kennedy, you had a comment?
I do, and Ron, I want to thank you for including the pictures in each of these packages. It's pictures worth 1,000 words, and actually seeing the condition of the equipment that you want to
some of this
replace,
equipment's hard to explain, and that's why I put those pictures so you can see what I.
Makes it a whole lot easier.
And I just have
Just so you know, the total price for that was $8,216. Okay.
Councilmember Kimball, go ahead.
From the photo, it looks like there was coil stock wrapped around that vent?
There was. That was
Yikes.
that was basically to keep it in place.
Yeah.
So what we can do, what happened, this whole piece, we needed to get in there. There wasn't any excess, so we had to take this piece off in order to see what was in that chase. And once you open this up and get the flashing off, you could see it was a big area. It's probably a 6x10 area or 6x8 area that you could actually get down through this 2x2 hole. So,
while they're there,
that was probably done by the roofers, we think. But yeah, that's in bad shape.
Well, this makes sense. Get it while they're staged, have them take care of both of these simultaneously. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. New business number 13, secondary affluent variable frequency drive.
Very good. Yes. So
First try.
this is a VFD drive. You've heard of this before. We put them in the water plant. We have 21 of these VFDs in our wastewater plant. They're all installed about the same time. They're all the same manufacturer. They're Square D VFD. They run various pumps, motors, different sizes. What we're seeing is a trend of these failing. This will be the fourth one that has failed in 2 years. When they fail, it's catastrophic. They're obviously, VFDs have come a long way. They no longer make these parts. They no longer make motherboards, which is what we're seeing here as an internal fault, which is a motherboard failure. So at this time, I would like the approval to replace this with not a Square D, but an ABB. This ABB will fit inside the cabinet that this Square D now sits in. Like I said, that they have downsized. The technology on VFDs in the past few years has been astonishing. So we have a company that will retrofit these. Instead of replacing them with a Square D, we'll replace them with an ABB. It's a smaller unit, it's more compact, and I think it's as reliable, if not more reliable, than what we had with the Square Ds.
Do you know of other communities that have had experience with those? I'm just for the reliability
with the ABBs
aspect.
or with the Square.
The new
when
stuff.
they built the plant, or revamped our plant in 2001, 2, and 3, and completed in 2005, these VFDs, the Square Ds, were bid, and at that time, when they installed them, they were probably out of date. So the Square Ds, you don't see a lot of these anymore in communities. They're moving towards the ABBs, and you can get them readily from supply houses. And like I said, if these ABBs fail, again, you're probably not going to be able to get a processor or repair them because of the price and just how small they are. So we've had ABBs. We have 2 of them now in our water plant. Very successful. We have a couple on our wells. And then the 3 previous VFDs that have been switched out from Square D to ABB have run fine. We haven't had an issue. They've only been in there 2 years, yeah. But it's quite. It takes a good day or two just for them to replace these because of the wiring schematics and trying to figure out the inputs and outputs. Obviously, it's not the same as the Square D. Mm-hmm. So he'll include as-built, so if we ever have an issue, we'll be able to go, forward and repair them if we need to, if we can.
Councilmember Kennedy?
I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to approve the replacement of the existing Square D VFDs with the new upgrade, the ABB components, as detailed in the report.
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just one other thing. With these VFDs, because we're seeing this trend, I'm going to propose, or whoever's in charge at that point, that we put a line item in the budget to continue this, because I see this as a trend that will continue, and that way we have a line item and it's there, and we can just move forward without having to find the money in the budget to do this.
Thanks, Ron. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Thanks again, Ron.
Thanks.
At this point, we'll move on to the budget this evening. Councilmember Kurtzwell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to bring attention to council some budget issues that I have been following regionally, and I don't think they're too different from South Lyons, and I'll make them really quick. is City of Brighton is getting ready to pass about $500,000 in cuts. They apparently did not get a mill passed in order to assist them to fix the roads. That was turned down in August. And the plan starts with $500,000 in cuts, $350,000 of which will come in concessions from employees and retirees. The city does anticipate raising new revenue, and that would be about $250,000 in commercial tax revenue from new economic development, $150,000 in additional tax revenue from the DDA, $60,000 in reimbursements from groups that hold community events, so I assume that those are the chargebacks, and about $40,000 from higher cemetery fees. So Brighton obviously is dealing with some deficit issues and also looking for money in order to pave the road. And I think maybe the tea leaf that I'm reading is that if South Lyon wants to pass a millage in order to fix roads in the city, it doesn't seem that surrounding communities, that the residents are in favor of that kind of millage. Next, the city of Howell, their voters just last week rejected a Headley override millage that would have generated funds for road repairs and city services. So once again, you see the voters rejecting millagers and are putting more pressure on local government to fiscally budget these issues. So, and I think Howell is looking at reducing their fund balance in order to meet some of their expenditures this fiscal year. They did have a planning meeting tonight. If we didn't have a city council meeting, I think I would have gone up to Howell and sat in on that meeting just to see how they're thinking through their issues. So that's just food for thought. That's all I have on budget issues.
Anyone else with anything on the budget this evening? All right, we'll move on to the manager's report. Paul?
A few items I want to remind council regarding the Ladies' Night Out this Friday. The Cool Yule also on December 1st in downtown. Please mark your schedules for that. I did talk to council members prior regarding budget for the upcoming year. I've already received a few council items, lists from each of you, and I hope the rest of you will submit yours within the next couple weeks. I want to remind council still regarding 318 West Lake Street, and we discussed at a prior meeting regarding that building is now vacant and decide its future use. I do recommend that we do talk about this at a future meeting and discuss how we want to move forward with that, whether it's making repairs in that building for future use by other organizations or potentially selling that particular building. I also brought up regarding city council agenda items. I think city council should consider looking at consent agenda under city council agenda. There's several items on the agenda this evening that could move through fairly quickly. This still does allow council members to comment on those agenda items if you'd like to remove them from consent agenda, but it does give you the ability to approve multiple items at one given time. I want to also report to council that I received notification last week that I received a $2,000 grant from SEMCOG regarding collecting pavement condition data that we're going to use for the evaluation of our roads. So that is $2,000 less than we have to pay. And we've already have a PACER study, but this will update it and assist us with generating the cost and the amount of money it's going to take to improve those roads. I also want to thank all the individuals, specifically our city staff, who worked countless hours regarding the election this past week. Lisa and her staff worked a number of hours, not only on election day, but weeks prior, as well as in follow-up, to all the volunteers, to all the election workers that came out. The people, everything with security was very well. Everybody worked very well that day. Even the bad weather didn't seem to hold anybody out. And I want Lisa to be able to give a report on that this evening if she wants to go over as far as the numbers for that evening.
Sure. The citywide voter turnout was 62%, which is really good. The statewide was 57.5%. We were really busy the weeks upcoming to the election. We mailed 1,858 absentee voter ballots, and we actually received 1,786 back, so that's pretty good.
Wow. Yeah.
We had no mechanical issues with the voting equipment. We had no complaints from residents regarding the lines. We had two challengers, one at precinct 1 and one at precinct 2. Neither of them filed any challenges. They both left in the middle of the day. And the one at precinct 1 actually told my workers they were doing a great job before he left. So that was nice. And I just want to thank Deputy Clerk Judy Piper, all the employees at City Hall and our DPW department for all their assistance and hard work. Also, thank you to South Lyon Police Department for the extra police presence. It was greatly appreciated by the inspectors and the voters. And thank you to Chris Sovic for driving our results to the county at 1 o'clock in the morning. And finally, a big thank you to our election inspectors for another successful election, because we could not do it without them. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
That's all I had.
Does anyone have anything for Paul?
Yes, I got one.
Councilmember Richards,
Okay.
go ahead.
I found myself asking double-think questions on this recommendations, and I went to my bank and asked them if they could help me make some tail out of it, head and tail. And basically they said, I think you're going at it wrong, Carl. Okay, so I'm asking you again here. As council members, you want us to make recommendations for each commission or separately, such as Parks and Rec, Historical, Cemetery, or there isn't a Cemetery Commission yet, but as we have the cultural arts and so on and so forth, or do you want us to go through the pages of the budget and say sewer and water fund, wastewater fund, make a change here or there? I'm confused at just exactly where you want us to focus our efforts, okay? Can you shed some light on that?
Since City Council sets policy and sets the direction for the city, I think it's important that City Council does express its interest in the areas that all of you feel are important to the success of the city. And whether it's your decision on whether you think it's a specific line item that you're concerned about or just in general, I think it's important that the city staff, when they begin, and all of us begin working on the budget, which we do at various times during the year, and we're going to continue to do it all through the year, that we know what council's priorities are. The city staff could be spinning its wheels and working in a particular area, and it could be in the wrong direction that council wants to go with in the future. And I think it's important that you express your interests early on what you think is important. It does give opportunity for staff, myself, and all the particular department heads to formulate the ideas when we start to set the groupings for each particular department and later on line items, and to make sure that we're all moving in the right direction. And then when we start to present items and we have a budget work session, those items have already been expressed to us. I can write all them down in some sort of format where council can see what the other members of council see are important. And then we have open discussion because you're aware of what all the other members of council deem as being important. I think it's an early communication tool that's used to help present a very successful budget for the future.
Okay, I'm going to do my very best to make some intelligent recommendations, okay? There are some things we need, okay? There's no doubt about it.
And I'd be happy to sit down with any one of you or all of you at any given time, individual, if you'd like to do that too.
Okay, no further questions on that.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Kurtzwell, please.
Yes, I would like to see if we can start using the consent agenda as soon as possible. I did bring that up at, I forget what meeting. Lyon Township uses it, and it is a very effective way of moving the meeting along. And I really don't know why South Lyon hasn't done it before in the past, but I want to thank you for bringing that up.
Anyone else with anything for the manager's report? Okay. At this time, we're going to open up for our second public comment. Just a reminder that a person may speak up to 2 minutes during each of the two public comments on agenda items or non-agenda items. And if you need longer than 2 minutes or requiring audio-visual, please ask the city clerk requesting to appear on a future agenda. At this time, if anyone has anything to say, please state your name and address.
Hi, Jerry Stowe, 26701 Kentucky Court, Lyon Township, also the husband of the owner of Grand Trunk Home, 101 North Lafayette. First of all, I want to say, Chief Collins, thank you for your service. Paul, My wife had said that you would come in and introduce yourself, and that was very welcome from her. But Bob, really, I want to address you on this. You're absolutely right. You've been nothing short of supportive of my wife, of all of the businesses in the downtown, and she makes that very clear and evident. I don't want to make your job tougher to bring businesses into the city, but I also want to point out where there are problems within the city, specifically within the government of the city, that is keeping this community really from taking that next step into being a successful downtown. So I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Keith Bradley, 352 Winchester. I'm used to sitting on that side of the microphone, so I hadn't planned on speaking tonight when I came, but I'm the vice chair of Planning Commission. I've been on Planning Commission for 16 years. It's a little disconcerting to work as hard as we do on recommendations and then come and they're dismissed rather quickly sometimes. Our main role is to review the site plans, developments. We have a very solid and diverse membership on our commission. I don't know how many years. We probably have, between the 7 of us, 100 years of service on Planning Commission. So, like I said, it's a little disappointing to see some of the recent recommendations that we made kind of be shot down. Councilman Richards, I know a couple of meetings ago, I can't remember the specific words, but something to the effect that we usually get things wrong. That's very disconcerting to me, to not have the support, you know, of a council member. So that was all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That will close public comment. We will move forward to our council comments this evening, and Council Member Kennedy is going to start us off.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, I'd like to begin by remembering Veterans Day and all of those who served or are serving in our armed forces. I want to thank you for your service. And borrowing a note from Lieutenant Colonel John McMahon from today's Veterans Day ceremony in downtown South Lyon, I'd just like to reiterate what he said. Always remember that freedom is not free. Next, I'd like to recognize the Salem South Lyon District Library for being selected as a star library based on their performance and service to their community. Over 7,300 U.S. public libraries were evaluated, and of those, 257 received that recognition. The Salem South Lyon District Library is one of only 6 in Michigan to receive this distinction, so congratulations to them. And finally, I also would like to follow up on a suggestion our city manager Paul Zelnick made regarding a possible improvement in the city council meetings. He suggested we use a consent agenda format to collectively approve a number of items rather than discussing them individually when such action is warranted. This would improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the council meetings, and I'd encourage him to see if we can take that approach going forward and give it a try, possibly for our next meeting. And I also would like to see that property at 318 West Lake added to the agenda, possibly for the next meeting, so we can begin taking action and making a decision on that property as well. And that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. Councilmember Richards, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I've got 8 items here, and I want to go fast. First of all, thank you to the DPW, okay, for getting in touch with Normar. You got the last tree on Liberty Street that I was asking about, okay? I've been down there and looked at it, and it looks great, okay? There's a biggie, and it had a lot of dead stuff in it, and Normar had to have the High Ranger in there to trim that one out, and they did a beautiful job, okay? Also, the tree on Lake Street that was seriously dangerous, okay, near the corner of Hagedorn. It's marked with a pink X, which I believe means a trim out and not a full takedown. And that's on Oakland County easement. It's their markers, and that's be handled by the Oakland County crews. Thank you for notifying them. Next item, also DPW. I had the experience, okay, of riding my bike and north of the tracks, okay, on the new sidewalk. I want to tell you, I went to the football game, South Lyon playoff game. I started out after dark. I went all the way after dark, and I came back after dark, of course. That's the furthest I've ever been on a bicycle in after dark in a long time. And it all came back to me when I was on that sidewalk, where I'm supposed to go for the right jump off to cross the street and everything, because I used to live out there. But the landscaping and the grass and everything, I never mentioned it before, but I had an occasion to think about it, okay? But when I was out there, I saw it, and it's absolutely wonderful. The grading and the grass and the angle, it's beautiful, okay? The sidewalk's just smooth as you could ask for. Very happy. Okay, next item, real fast, Larry touched on it, the dulcimer contract in our village. It's on the 25th, that's just after Thanksgiving. 2 concert times, 4 o'clock and 6:30 p.m. Tickets are $6 a piece. Tickets are available at Parkside Cleaners, Java House, and Bachman Florist, okay? Next item, 234 Liberty. For your information, that's the house across the street. Okay, if you recall, everybody had a real estate flyer in their last council meeting. I'm giving you the update, I'm authorized to do so. Okay, that house has been sold. It's in the discovery process now. It went through a lawyer. That lady's sales agent that I talked to and I got these from, it didn't go through her. Now, I don't pretend to understand the real estate business. I never did, and I always tried to stay away from it. But I'm authorized to tell you what it went for, and it went for $135K, which was down $20,000 from the asking price. Okay, next one. 4 stars to the tube mill. Okay. For the parking lot repair that is going on over there right now inside the gate, if anybody's noticed. I'm sure Rose has noticed because she has to drive past there every day. Mm-hmm. Okay, $40K, which means 40,000 plus square feet. The general contractor is Pat Mall, our local hometown boy. And you might ask, how did I know that? Well, next one. Okay. Last Friday morning, I got a call from Ted Fairley, the chief CEO of the tube mill. And during the course of our conversation, which lasted about 5 minutes, I asked him, who's the general contractor on that big a job? Is it Pat Mall? And he said, yes, it was. And I asked him some other things. He declined. But he said, I signed the contract for that. And he'll probably get it finished up this week. And hats off to Pat Mall for doing that big a job. That'd be one of the biggest things I've ever seen him do. Anyway, there's some more on that, but I don't think I'll go into it right now. But just let me say, he has agreed to meet with me. Okay, further, and some other council representatives regarding some issues going forward that'll come up next year that you don't know much about, but I've heard about them, and I've known about some of them for years. I've been after this for years, and I would like, generally speaking, council's interaction. Do they want me to proceed, or should I hand everything over to Manager Paul from here on in? I can go both ways. And I bring him up to speed on what's going on. We're talking millions of dollars here. Okay, this isn't penny ante. Okay, but he came back to me and asked me information. I asked him, and he said, I will meet with you. That's a big plus, people. Okay, and going forward, I'd like to have, I don't want to wing it alone. I'd like to have a couple of councilmen and some other people with me to be discussed at a later time. Final item, Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to all the wonderful families of the realm okay, and I hope everyone has a good holiday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Richards. Councilmember Kivel?
Well, I'd like to also thank the election workers and PD for such a successful election. Also the American Legion and VFW for the celebration of today's Veterans Day ceremony down at the memorial. And Mr. Ledbetter, I think you timed your little appearance tonight perfectly, right at the onset of our budgeting season. So you'll be first in line over there at Historic Commission. So I thought that was perfect timing. And I'm hoping that that Mr. Zelenek can form a stronger relationship with the Comcast installers to try to save some of the anguish that some of the neighbors and the residents of the area seem to be enduring. So seems like that last wave, at least there was some satisfaction from the lady that had written to City Hall for trying to find some solution to her sprinkler hose at least. So hopefully that will end up being controlled more. It does seem difficult to understand why the contractor or Comcast doesn't do a better job of getting a coordinated effort with the city so that the city can be more instrumental in giving the residents better understanding of when their area is likely to end up going under some of the inconvenience of installing those systems. So, well, as I guess that's about all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kivel. Councilmember Walton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of quick things tonight. I want to remind everybody there are lots of great local events coming up. Cool Yule is one of my personal favorites. I really look forward to seeing everyone in town. I also want to thank all the veterans, current and past, for their service and all their sacrifices and their continued service. So we just cannot thank you enough. And lastly, I just want to remind everyone, please donate to Active Faith. You can grab a couple extra canned goods in the grocery stores, drop them right in the vestibule as you're leaving. You don't even have to go out of your way. That's it. Have a good night.
Great reminder, Councilmember Walton. Councilmember Kurtzwell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I would like to say that it's wonderful seeing Keith Bradley, the Vice Chairman of the Planning Commission. I know Keith personally. I sat on the Planning Commission with him, and what an outstanding individual we have on the Planning Commission. We're very, very fortunate to have someone of his talent, his expertise on that Planning Commission. And I think sometimes it's easy to judge the Planning Commission. I've been there. I sat on the other side. It's tough, and many times the developer doesn't even come in with documents that are accurate, and you're left trying to put together a puzzle for somebody that is applying for some sort of relief from you. They do a great job. I'm tremendously supportive of the Planning Commission, and I just want to say, Keith, I'd like to thank you for everything that you've done for this commission. And I do miss some of our days, because some of my best times I think were on the Planning Commission. It was just a great commission to be on, great personalities, and just great energy. So thank you so much for what you've done over the years, and hopefully you're going to continue being there. Next, I would like to thank the Cultural Arts Commission for a great exhibit that we had last week. The opening night was very well attended. I would also like to thank Mary Poole, the owner-manager at Lake Street Tavern, for her contributions to the show. Yes, Mary Poole brought 4 pieces of her own artwork that she did. Only 2 of them were for sale. Mary Poole actually was in attendance at the opening, and I would like to thank this wonderful DDA business, Lake Street Tavern, for its support of the arts in South Lyon. Thank you so much. Speaking of the Cultural Arts Commission, it's kind of becoming a commission of influence. About 2 years ago, Bridget Donahue submitted some of her artwork to the commission at the A&E Spring exhibit. Today, Bridget is a student at Virginia Commonwealth University, and she has been accepted into the very prestigious School of Arts. She believes that her portfolio that she submitted to get accepted into the School of Arts contains some of the artwork that she actually brought here and exhibited in the city of South Lyon. So I'd like to thank this South Lyon graduate who is creating her way through one of the most prestigious schools, and I think we should be very, very proud of her. To add glory to the arts in South Lyon, her sister Amanda just finished a book signing tour. The book is titled The Margins, and Amanda did all the illustrations in this comic book. Amanda's name is right here in the back, Amanda Donahue. So Amanda and Bridget are two great examples of how we as a city can support the careers, can support the ambitions of all of our students. So thank you, Bridget. Thank you, Amanda Donahue. They are the daughters of Kim and Tim Donahue. I know them both for bringing a positive image to the city of South Lyon. Next, I'd like to thank, as everyone has tonight, the elections. As you know, I was very insistent upon getting some additional police visibility at the election polls this year, and I want to thank those that were involved in making that event very safe for all those that attended. I would also like to thank Lieutenant Sovic for him taking the ballots up to Pontiac. I think that was an incredible gesture of working with people in the city of South Lyon rather than setting up barriers and saying that's normally not my job. Thank you, Lieutenant Sovic, for crossing that bridge. I think that speaks a lot of your character. Also, I'd like to thank the South Lyon Police Department for their trick-or-treating that they did on Halloween. I heard a rumor that Lieutenant Sovic was over at Sam's Club and was loading up a shopping cart with candy. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that his police officers were out passing out candy. I did see them in my subdivision, so I assume that the candy went from the shopping cart to the kids. And I will tell you, Lieutenant Sovic's community relations that he engaged in with respect to the community was very, very well received. I can't tell you the neighbors of mine that were standing by that police car and getting the picture taken with a South Lane police officer with someone dropping some candy in their bag. So thank you, Lieutenant Sovic, for taking the initiative on a great community relations effort. Also, I understand that Lieutenant Sovic has played a very important role in the new officer, which we have not heard from Lloyd Collins, but I'll make the announcement. His name is Jonathan Shinmin. I think it's Shineman. A great, great young talent that is coming into the city of South Lyon. Wonderful individual. I had an opportunity to meet him on Halloween night, and I want to thank Chris Sovic and all the officers over in the department that played a role in hiring this fine young individual. Last and most importantly, I would like to thank all the veterans living in South Lyon and in our country for their service to and defending my freedoms that I enjoy. I had a wonderful time on Sunday enjoying several VAW events, memorizing and memorializing those that gave so much for our country. I would also like to extend a very heart-warm congratulations from me and all of my friends to Dan Crenshaw, the newly elected congressman from the 2nd Congressional District in the state of Texas. Dan is a lieutenant commander. He is a former Navy SEAL. In 2012, Dan was in the Helmand province when a homemade landmine went off, almost blinding him. He retired from the military in 2016 after earning 2 Bronze Stars, the Purple Heart, and the Navy Commendation Medal with Valor. He did lose an eye in the Helmand explosion, and he wears an eye patch. 3 days before Dan was elected to Congress, Saturday Night Live mocked him and made offensive comments about his eye patch. I get the First Amendment. I really do. For example, I look at all the vulgar, savage, disgusting, sexual remarks that are made about Melania Trump. And no one seems to have outrage, and there doesn't seem to be any apparent concern for decency. Our First Amendment protects that which we find offensive rather than flattering. Dan Crenshaw may be a tough military guy. However, there are some things that are said that even a tough guy or a tough gal should not have to bear. The remedy, hopefully, is more speech, moving the narrative to a closer message of acceptance of our differences and a compassion for those with disabilities. This young, new congressman who is 34 years old, lieutenant commander, is a role model for all of us. So to this veteran in particular, I will never forget the sacrifices you made for me, for our country, so that I can enjoy the freedoms of liberty, the freedom to pray to a God, and the freedom to speak without retribution or the fear of silencing. I know I will never meet you, Mr. Crenshaw, but if you should pass through South Lyon, Michigan, me and my friends would love to give you a hero's hug that you deserve and a hero's hug that you have earned. I will never forget you, Lieutenant Commander, Congressman-elect Dan Crenshaw from the state of Texas. Good night, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving, and remember all of those that make our lives important. Thank you.
I'm ready.
Okay. We're going to backtrack to Councilman Richards. He has a apology towards the DDA tonight.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I extend my apology to Mr. Bentley also. I sometimes, in the heat of the moment, I overstate my case without considering the consequences of my focus or the topic of what I'm addressing. Anyway, I have an apology with the on the evening of the last council meeting, I made an error in my statement of best wishes to Mr. Paul Heinonen, and I implied a discredit to our friend and colleague, Mr. Bob Donahue, in regards to himself and the DDA. In my statement of good favor towards Paul's approach to the DDA board, approval to the DDA board, I inadvertently crossed the line, going backwards, which I had not seen and which maybe I should have foreseen, but the fact remains I did not. I did not mean to imply discredit towards any member of the DDA in the course of their volunteer service to the city of South Lyon. My focus has never been to be disingenuous in my statements on any topic, but in this instance I spoke in error. I do not claim to hide behind any rationalizations of ambiguities on a subject as to how someone else may choose to have or have chosen to take my comments. Again, the fact remains I was wrong. In my topic approach and in some of the content of and for the DDA functions. In light of this reflection on my part, I sincerely apologize to Bob and also to any or all members of the DDA. Thank you.
Thank you.
This goes to Lisa.
Okay. I just want to echo the thoughts of many of us up here and thanking everyone that helped on Election Day, all of our city employees, all of our volunteers. That is an essential part of our democracy. It is, there's just not enough words to appreciate you guys. It's a long day. And it sounded like it went relatively well considering turnout and how many people we had voting. So thank you. You guys are all appreciated. And then secondly, I just want to thank everyone at the VFW and the American Legion this morning and asking me to be a part of their memorial service at the Veterans Memorial this morning. It's a great thing to be a part of. It's definitely a proud moment to be able to take part in something like that. So thank you to you all on that. I will look for a motion to adjourn this evening.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.